Hey, welcome along to the Strategy and Conversions podcast. We're now on episode 29. I'm Jamie Michael Joseph. As always, I'm joined by Mark Tanner, and we are now into part 3 of this trilogy that we've been talking about, being your offering and your messaging. And, you know, all this came about. We said, the other month we did a webinar, and it came up with someone saying, what do you class as the most important part of business marketing? And my kind of view was on your offering, on what you sell and how you put that together. Mark's was more about the messaging and how you kind of put that across for why someone needs to buy. And we went back and forth quite a lot, as we do with a lot of stuff in marketing. We like to get down to the nitty gritty, and we kind of went, you know what, it's together. You know, if you have one without the other, you can have a bit of success, of course you can, but it's only short-lived. It's not sustainable, where it needs the two together before you even look at a system and looking at things later down the line. It comes back to these two parts. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We'll recap on some of the other stuff from last week as well. But I guess we'll start off with just saying to Mark, you know, with the messaging side, you know, why do you feel so strongly on that side?
Well, this is, to me, being a writer, the copywriting thing, and the whole idea of the words and the copies with everything. Messaging, you have to appeal to that person's emotion, whatever, and that emotion is around the challenge that particular person's having, and it's always starts with the headline. Why will I even be interested? And that's the kind of the thing. So when you're talking to somebody, you're writing an email, you're writing maybe a sales page, or even talking to someone in a networking event, is why are they interested? It's the emotion around they're stuck with something. There's a challenge. We've both heard, haven't we, that people say, "Oh, my sales suck. You know, my marketing sucks." So there's a challenge. All right, is this vernacular, if you like, but there's a challenge. So they're no good, or they don't think they're any good at marketing, and straight away and you can tell by the language they use. I mean, sucks normally means it's causing them a problem. So they think, you know, my marketing sucks. I'm not getting anywhere. Bang. Okay, that may not be as frustrating as losing sleep, you know, on that kind of stuff, where some people go into the real extremes. But you say but there is the problem. And that's what you've got to resolve, is say, okay, and then if you're face to face with them, you can start asking questions, you know, why and what is it about it that sucks. But when you're writing, you have to think about providing the answers to those questions as if they've been asked already.
Yeah, totally, I get that. And I think to put it a different way, just to give a different kind of a thought process on this, is like you said there, some people say, "Oh, my sales suck," or my marketing sucks. You get this a lot. I've mentioned this quite a lot in the podcast, where you'll get people say that their website sucks.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, my website's rubbish. You know, I don't get anything from it," and everything like that. And you know, in that situation, you would always look at two sides. So you would look at, okay, look, how many people are getting to the website, and then how many people are taking the next step to whatever it is that they're meant to be doing. So just say you had a sales page where maybe you're trying to set up a phone call. Okay, so you have this initial consultation to see if you're a right fit for working together. And you look at the data and you're not getting enough people to the website. Well, then you have a traffic problem, right? You don't actually have a problem with the website, you have a traffic problem.
Yeah.
And then if you're getting loads of people to that page and no one's booking a call, well, then there's some sort of issue within the copy there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's what we're looking at with the offering and the messaging as well, because you know, from the starting point, you have to have an offering. You have to have something. It's our product, service, whatever it is. You have to have something that solves a problem, that adds value to that person. And then your messaging is how you get that across for people to buy it. Right. So that messaging, like you said, can be from anywhere. You know, so whether you set up a market stall and you're selling whatever it is, whether you're at a networking event and you're saying to someone about it, maybe you've got onto that phone call, you know, and you're talking to someone already about it, or maybe they've just gone to that sales page to learn a little more, you know, about what it is. That messaging there is so important, because without it, well, they're never going to take the next step.
No, exactly. You know, and it's yeah, exactly right. You know, because they have to. There's the questions that you've got to imagine that people are going to ask in their heads, because they will. They're not really. I'll say they're not interested in you. They are interested to a certain extent, but if it's, if you're talking to a person face to face, obviously they're interested in you. But when it comes to looking at a copy on a word, they're not really interested in what you are, or what you do and what you give. They're just interested in, can you fix their problem? That's all they want to know, is, can you fix the problem I've got? And so that's why and again, I've said this before in different trainings we've done, is that we're all feeling people. So everything is about emotion. And with certainly when it comes to writing a sales page or any kind of form of copy, even on a web, to be honest, because the website, your web copy should be written as if it's compelling people in. It's good. The website isn't a brochure site anymore, I don't think. Websites have got to be able to have a function now. Otherwise, they're a waste of money in a sense, because they're not actually proving anything. So it's got to have people. It's got to be compelling for people to come along. And often the most compelling thing you can ever ask is a question. The first thing is the question. So you could even start off with does your marketing suck, for example? That's a really basic question, but that's the kind of question where someone might think, well, yeah, actually it does. And then you can and then your message when it comes to the writing is, well, so what is it you're struggling with, or does it make you, has it made your business stop, or you can't get any more sales or anything? And just going back to your examples, a brilliant one. And it could be, does your website really suck? Here are 5 tips you need to look at. Are you getting the traffic to your website? If they're landing on the pages, which pages they're landing on? What's the copy like on those pages? So instead of you going away from them thinking, oh, my website's rubbish, to say, well, it may not be. Just because you think it's rubbish is because you're already looking for flaws in it. But something might, but because it's not converting anything for you. But that could be simply because, like you said, you're not getting any people to it. You can't. If you get one person to a website, you're unlikely to have 100% conversion rate.
Exactly that. And I mean, that's the thing as well. I mean, you could actually have 100% conversion rate, right? So you have one person come along, and if you have the right kind of setup, then someone coming along, they see the page, they actually purchase, is great. Well, I mean, if we can replicate that and we start getting 10 people, we start getting 50 people, and we're still getting a quite high conversion rate. Well, we know that we can spend a lot of money to get a lot more people to that site, because we're going to get the conversion, and like you said as well, I mean, that thing there is a classic on what page do they land on. The amount of times over the years that I've basically worked with companies where that initial statement comes out with either our website's rubbish, or they say, oh, we tried running ads, they didn't work. And we go, okay, look, what actually happened? And maybe they were running Google ads, and they were doing something. This is a prime example, right? There's a guy I know who had a computer shop, and he was running ads for laptop repair. Right? Perfect, right? So someone's got a broken laptop, whatever it is, they're putting in laptop repair near me, whatever it is, his ad comes up, click here. They click onto it, they go through to the home page of his website, and his home page starts talking about how they deal with business IT. They deal with selling computers. They deal with they deal with security, internet security. And it's like, if the person completed about 3 or 4 clicks, they could find the page that said, yeah, we do laptop repair. But that's a lot of work on the person. What the person has done is clicked on the ad, they've got to that page, they've gone, IT support, I don't need this. They've clicked back and they've gone to the next ad. You've lost that person. So the ad worked. You have the right page on your website, you just haven't matched them up in a way. And we're getting a bit off topic between the messaging and stuff like that now, but there is an element to it of consistency and congruency, that you have to have throughout your messaging, so that the next step is always the right kind of step that they need.
And you've got to, and going back to the messaging, this is really important. You got to remember that people's attention span, even when you're talking to them, is pretty small. When you're talking in a network meeting, you're face to face, and you say, hello, how are you? Now, what did you do? And and what's all that about then? And then they catch someone else's eye. If that's not compelling, they're gone. Oh, excuse me a minute, I've got to go to the coffee machine, or I've got to go and see so-and-so. And they've gone. If they're reading something, you've got 4 seconds at the max. Okay. Now, if you send somewhere to somewhere else, that gets repeated. So if they've read your ad and they think, well, that's quite interesting, and you sent them to a website or sent them to a page and it happens to be your website, that's back to 4 seconds again. If they can't really find what they want in 4 seconds, they thought, oh, that's rubbish. You know, if they want, and people now want instant access to stuff, don't they? So if they see that you put the solution, oh yeah, that's good. Yes, I have that pain point. Yeah, my laptop crashed the other day. We repair laptops, bang, and you take them to a page which they get onto the page, and it's all about where you need to fix the laptop or where you need to send the laptop. Great, you've got probably a buyer. You've got someone who's going to say, yeah, I'm going to buy a service. I want my laptop repaired. But like you said, if you're going to ask them to click 4 times, they may click once and they're gone because they think, oh, they're going to find someone else. Google's got rankings and rankings of people who fix laptops. So they're just going to go back on the Google and find the next one, which actually is what I would do as well.
Exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? You want to make it as simple as you can. You mentioned the last podcast as well. We said about how we set up our members area for our services. We've got Momentum Builder where we do this live session every month, and we wanted to make it as easy as possible. But now we've had to add an extra click into that system. You know, we don't like that because we're adding an extra click, but it doesn't interrupt any of the streaming issues for our customers or anything like that. They still get to see it, but we dislike it. Now, if we added 3 or 4 clicks, people are going to get mad, right? People are going to leave. They're going to be like, look, we want something different here. And that's the same thing, is that your messaging is you need to make it clear. So you're not making people figure out things for themselves, you know. And we get onto some of the kind of deep diving into what to do in just a bit. But I was just thinking what you said with some of the stuff there with attention spans, and I'm thinking about networking. And we've done a lot of networking over the years. And you know as well as I do, and you know, people will say this as well, that during a networking event, people are talking. Maybe they're doing their sort of pitch where they talk about themselves. And a lot of the people around the room, they're not listening because they're reciting what they're going to say in their head. They're going over their pitch in their head.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's even worse now that we've gotten to Zoom. You know, for a lot of networking events, people are looking at the phone. There's different distractions.
Yeah, that's so many distractions.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And it made me think of that. There's a guy that we both know called Adrian, you know, and he's great at networking events because he'll stand up and he'll stay silent for like 10 seconds, right? Until everyone is like looking around as if like, why hasn't he started? You know, what's happened? And then he's got everyone's attention. He's got all the eyes on him and he starts his pitch, right? And I'm just thinking to myself then, with the internet, you know, we don't want that space. Right, we don't want to, you know, someone clicks onto your website and all of a sudden there's just a white page for 10 seconds because people are already gone. Right? So how do we? And I know you've mentioned about the headline being the most important part. You know, we have to grab that attention straight away. But how do we really do that? Do we do it in a way where we're disruptive? Do we do it in a way when we, you know, maybe say that we're on their side? Do we do it in a way?
Well, do you know, it does come down to the headline. Is it something that makes them stop? So I've put on I did this an experiment actually. It was when the pandemic was on, so it's probably about 1.5 years ago. And I just had a headline with in capital letters, bang, with an exclamation mark. And I had quite a few people reading it. They went on to the first line. I said, I didn't say something cheesy like, well, that got your attention. I was going to say, that's the I can't remember. I said, I think something like that's the sound of your business crashing again, or something where you hit the table because something hasn't worked again. But the headline was just bang. And it was kind of made people think, well, what's all that about? And it's interesting actually on different media because one way you can build intrigue, and this is also important, is building that intrigue. So I know, for example, in certain media where you can have a headline, and then you can put in enough returns that people don't see the next line. And if the headline's a bit of a cryptic question, that makes people think, Well, what's that about? And it's the same as Adrian did when he just stood up and waited, and people just looked at him and said, "So what the hell's he doing now?" And then he started. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But what you have to, you can't do that, like you said. So you have to do something that is a real odd question. This is an interesting one. Years ago, and it was years ago. It was probably about 3 years ago. There's a guy I was actually coaching on copywriting, and he put in what was it? He put in his a headline was, "Do you have zombie spreadsheets?" And he said, "What? Zombie spreadsheet?" And he was talking about people who use Excel to such stage that it just swamps their PC. That they just click onto an Excel page and just go on, and it waits so long to refresh, and it becomes tedious, and it just eats their time, it eats the memory, eats everything. So his headline is, "Do you have zombie spreadsheets?" And that was kind of like, it's so incongruent. You got two words that don't make sense. Zombies are kind of like a weird, that kind of mythical thing anyway. And then spreadsheets, and put them together, they're totally incongruent. So having those words that don't make sense is quite good as well. So that makes people, that makes their head, that doesn't gel properly in their head. So the straight away they're going to look a bit further, because something in their head says, "Oh, that doesn't sound right." Another one. Sorry.
Do you feel like that's needed now with social media, because it's so noisy that there's always that kind of that stuff going on where people are trying to gain attention? There's a lot of sales messages that go on.
Yeah,
that pattern interrupt is needed,
and that's the thing, isn't it? That's the whole point about this. It does interrupt a pattern of thinking. So you get lots of these. You'll see, "Do you need this?" and "Is this not working for you?" and all this kind of stuff. And oh God, there's another one. And then you get someone. Somebody comes like, "Wouldn't you love to steal back time?" for example, is another one I've seen. And you think, well, how can you steal back time? That's a bit weird. And then you look at it, because you think, well, that's odd. Yeah, I'd love to steal back time. I don't think it's possible. And that can get people to read, because again, it doesn't make sense. You can't. It's impossible to steal back time, or time as we know it anyway. But it's having two words that kind of don't gel together. And the other one is words that people hate seeing. So hate is another word. Do you hate it when this happens? People don't like the word. Sometimes a lot of people don't like the word hate. It's kind of real. So you've got to do something that jars them out of just scrolling through, because often nowadays, I work on a laptop, and a lot of people do still. But then you got to remember that the majority of people are scrolling through these.
Yeah.
So it's easy to scroll through. So you've got to have something that jumps out.
I guess just for the podcast, you held up a mobile phone.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
To see it. But I mean, that is the thing, though, isn't it? We got that whole thing of scrolling, and there is that whole kind of thing of thumb stopping content. Because you're scrolling through, and this is where. We've mentioned it a few times as well, about that you can niche the front end. You don't have to necessarily niche the back end, but the front end makes it appealing to someone, and they're scrolling through, and all of a sudden they see something that appeals to them, and that could be a picture, that could be a word, it could be a sentence, whatever it is. Something appeals to them, they see it, they stop, and they start to read. Now, what happens sometimes? Well, there was this tactic that used to get taught, which people do, where they look to build engagement, or they look to build reach and stuff like that through just doing something really weird. Be like, do you put the toothpaste on, the brush first and then water, or do you do it the other way around, and this kind of stuff, And the whole point is that okay, you get lots of comments and you get lots of engagement and stuff like that. But then when they post something about their business, it gets nothing.
Yeah,
nothing happens that way. It's just a ridiculous tactic that gets used to try and do it. But what you're saying there is that you do something to have the pattern interrupt, but there is some consistency, there is that congruency then in the next step of your copy that starts to talk about what the problem or the solution is.
And this, again, coming back, like you said, with those crazy headlines, it doesn't make any sense unless you're able to bring back putting the toothpaste first on and then the water or the other way around to a business situation. That's the only way. And the point about what I was saying, those headlines, they're all they then logically follow on. So the whole idea is then your argument is, so for example, zombie spreadsheets. He's talking about spreadsheets that eat up your memory, that eat up the time to load. So there's the eating, and there's the spreadsheet. So it makes sense. But you couldn't have something, you could say, I don't know, you couldn't have a headline, like you said, you couldn't have a headline about toothpaste and water if then you start talking about something totally different. Because again, people just, well, that's weird. It just they wouldn't be interested. So if you can bring that cleverly into some kind of message about the business, then great. Because most people who are, if you're targeting right, and you've got people say, I don't know, LinkedIn or even Facebook to a certain extent, and they know that you're a business person, like in our case, marketing and stuff. Most of them are going to be looking at it, stuff from you, and they know it's going to be business related.
Yeah.
Because we're not, for example, dog groomers would be talking about dogs. So they're going to have an idea of what you're talking about. So they need to bring it down. They bring it down to that business or something that's this is the whole point. Something that's really relevant to them, and that's the issue. It comes back. It's got to be an emotional challenge they're facing personally. If you're a coach, maybe, or a consultant, but for maybe from a marketing perspective, it's going to be about business.
So let's flip the question and let's put it a different way. With that, just say the zombie spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Right. You've got that kind of message there, and probably the call to action is to click over to a page on the website.
Yeah.
Does that page start off again with zombie spreadsheets, or is that done now? Does it
no,
get
that's
into the,
you can't.
into the meat?
I don't think it's because the zombie spreadsheets headline is an engagement instantly. If you then repeat that again, it's gone. That kind of that surprise about that is gone, hasn't it? So you've got to have something slightly different. So if you're going on to, if you've warmed them up, and then you're sending them to a page somewhere else, the page has got to have something on it that relates to the kind of the warm-up piece that you sent. Yeah. So in other words, you've got to have a piece of text or some information that when they go to the page, it says something. And as we said on our, on that this happens, and then you go for this. As we pointed out, that your memory can really suffer with, and you can call them zombie spreadsheets, I guess, because people know what you're talking about, but not in a headline. So, well, as you know, we've just mentioned how zombie spreadsheets can eat up your memory. This is the solution, and there you got the solutions down.
Again, and I think that the big thing there, the big takeaway, is that, like you've said in a few different podcasts, is that whatever you write, there has to be a purpose to it. And you mentioned you mentioned about like websites. You said about the no longer the brochure websites and stuff like that. I think there what we're looking at is we're looking at dynamic rather than static. And the whole point there is that page is that you can create that page, which the sole purpose of that page is to be there for when someone sees that social media message.
Yeah,
that's not for someone to find out through Google, because no one's typing in zombie spreadsheets. They don't get that. Exactly. So there's no reason for them to do that. There would be a different page that is more suited to, a Google search. And this is where we really get into marketing. It's a bit of the topic that we're kind of talking here, but it makes sense from the messaging side, is that there has to be that consistency in the messaging to move people through to that next stage so that they can then become, a customer or a prospect.
Yeah,
because they've seen that kind of stuff and they've moved through.
Yeah.
So like you say, if you've got stuff on there about zombie spreadsheets and someone's found you through Google because they're looking at reducing their kind of computer speed, as soon as they come through, they say, what are they on about? Zombie spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to make sense, but that first pattern interrupt moved them on, and that's great. So, okay, let's look at the messaging then from a different way. So we mentioned last week that we did the whole kind of POP. So we did the positioning, offering, and the process. And what happened there is we got to build out our kind of statement piece there.
Yeah.
That talks about, look, we help this type of person, or this type of industry or whatever it is, achieve this kind of result. Right. And we also can say then that we do that without something that goes on, and we can say we do this with whatever our kind of unique mechanism is that moves people on. Once we have that big statement piece there, we can use that in our marketing as our message, but it gives us a lot of clarity to then step forward with the confidence and the courage to start getting stuff out there. So where would we start with? Okay, look, we know our positioning, our offer, and our process. We know who we serve, what result we get them, and then we look at, it's either with or without something, or even both. How do we start to build out the messaging then for that product?
So we've gone. You're talking about going beyond the headline now, beyond the.
Yeah. So I mean, how we start to, I guess, how we start to look appealing to people. So we've gained their attention.
You gain their attention
because they go, okay, well, this intrigues me. I want to know more.
Yeah.
How do we turn them from that to a buyer?
Okay. So you've got their attention, and they're starting to read through your stuff. So what you need to do, so I always work on the premise that you need to build, you need to, once you've got their attention, you need to elicit three things from them. And that is getting them to nod their head. So talking about reading, even in a face-to-face. So you're talking about stuff where they nod their head and they're agreeing with you. Because as we know, the more affirmations that's in someone's head, the more likely they are to buy. So you lay out your next kind of paragraph of authority, is this sort of expertise, where you're saying, so this is the solution this is the kind of standard solution that can help you. You can see how this works, can't you? There's kind of those phrases, and they nod their head, and then this is the next step you need to do. And that works because it's a fantastic word, by the way, to use that. So this works because this goes on, and people are, oh yeah, because it's kind of a logic string. And again, that's a nodding the head thing. This works because of that, and they get, okay. So you're trying to get them to nod their head as many times as you like. So in what I call the elicit, as part of the E part of the great copy method, trying to get them to elicit this kind of nodding affirmation in their head, that they're agreeing with what you're saying. You might get to a stage where you suddenly goes in a bit contentious, and it might make them think. But what you still want to do is put that as such a way that they do agree. Yeah, I can see that. That's a good point. And straight away they're nodding. Yeah, I can see what he's getting at. They're nodding their head, so they carry on. And this is the whole
scene, right?
Yeah, you're setting the scene, and so you've got them to nod their head. Okay. Then when you put out kind of the standard solution that most people provide, and they can see that that works. Then you say, but what we also do is this, and we also give you this bit, and we also help you with that, and we do this, for example. So zombie spreadsheets, it could be, okay, what you need to do is maybe upgrade your memory, because that'll work, because you can put more spreadsheets on, and then okay, I could do that. Maybe they're having problems seeing that huge spreadsheet, so you get a bigger screen that you can have it, working in parallel with your laptop. But I can see that. And so you go on these solutions, and you say, but what we also look at is why you need them in the first place. Wouldn't it be better if it was in this kind of a system? And that's when people think, right, that's interesting, I haven't even thought about that. And all of a sudden you've gone from a standard, oh yeah, well, everyone will say that because that's obvious. Oh, that one wasn't obvious. So now you have raised yourself in their eyes. You've gained a little bit more authority in their eyes, especially if wouldn't it be good if you had it in this kind of format and how this works, and they think, oh yeah, and again you've got another nod. And the whole point, what you're trying to do in any kind of messaging, and this is face-to-face as well, is get the person nodding. The more you get them nodding, the more they're going to be warming to you and warming to your offering, if you like. And at that point that they're nodding, they've gone from being a really cold lead to becoming a warmer prospect.
Yeah.
And that's when you start saying, right, once you bring in those warm prospects, then those are the people that you can offer that conversation. So can we work together?
So let's look at that then. So I love that. So that we're setting the scene.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going through what the issue is. What we're doing there is we're highlighting the problem.
Yeah.
So we highlight the problem, And then, like you said, what we do then is we are saying that there is a solution.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that we offer the solution. But then what we further do is we give them a new realization
Yeah.
by saying, look, this solution does exist, or we have this unique mechanism, or we do this without, doing such and such.
Yeah.
That there helps you to stand out, build that authority, quite right, like you said. So that's what we've done there, is we've moved them from problem to understanding that there's a solution.
Yeah.
And then what we need to do then is obviously look to them. They're probably already wanting that solution now. So now we need to go into that next step of, okay, like how do we get them into becoming a customer, or even taking the next step to maybe it's book a phone call, maybe it's book a consultation, maybe it's to, register for something or another. Part there that I really like is where we get into a bit of kind of storytelling and stuff like that. And we start getting into showing people that we're the guide within the story and they're the hero.
That's a classic. One thing I always say is that is in copy, and this is applicable to anything because it's still words. You're leading someone along a corridor to their Batman outfit. All right, so you're bringing them along the corridor to say, I wonder what's down this corridor, and you're taking them down this corridor. You're the guide. You're Alfred. You're taking them down, and you open this, and you go and you open this thing, and there's your Batman outfit, and there's your utility belt, and you're making them the hero. And I think this is the big problem in some cases is when people become the hero of the situation. So someone who wants to sell you a solution for whatever it is, if they become the hero of what they're trying to sell, the person's reaction is, yeah, but it's okay for you because you can be up there, but I can't be there. But what you're saying, what you should be saying is guiding them and say, this is what you can become. Wow. And also, so by instead of doing it all on spreadsheets, how about doing it in a database which we can set up for you? Wow, and how brilliant that'll be for you. You'll be in total control. So there's a benefit. Total control. You'll know what's going on. You can access that data really quickly. Another benefit, because they've been waiting hours for their spreadsheet to load. And then it's all indexed because the database is indexed. Excel doesn't. Another benefit. And all of a sudden, the benefits are, if you like, the bat belt. They're putting on this bat belt, all these benefits. And you've given the hero suit and the utility belt, and you say, right, bang, you can go rule the world. That's the kind of thing. So and what you're saying is the call to action it depends how far along your particular sales process there are, because you don't ever go to somebody and say, this is me, this is what we do, buy now, because you won't get any sales. So you have a process, and the process is this is what we do. Have a look at this. Would you like to know more? That's the first step. Would you like to click on this link to know more? So you get them to click on a link. Then would you like to click on a link to pick up a phone and have a chat to somebody? There's a sales process. So the call to actions often are not buy. It's more about if you'd like to know more, or if you'd like to think about working with us or whatever, click on this link. We'll have a chat. It's really subtle type of selling. But this is why I keep saying about sales and conversations. You'll never say what you don't have a conversation is buy now. It's all about how can we help? How can we help you more? How can we support you? What is the next step we can take to work together? It's all very simple stuff. You're asking them the question and putting them in that position of answering. You showed them the Batman outfit and the bat belt. So you're saying, so how can we give you something else in your utility belt? And they think, oh, yeah, of course, I want one.
Man, and I guess as well, look, that whole kind of thing now with, making them the guide, you being the guide, you're making them the hero, is that your whole process there from problem to solution is you can be storytelling. So you can paint the scene, you can put the person in that they're suffering from the problem and all this kind of stuff. You can tell them there's a solution. Maybe you've been there before, or the Batman outfit. And then you're giving them the opportunity to say, look, we can put you in the Batman outfit.
Yeah.
And then we can, show you how to do whatever. And I love, actually, superhero movies are a great example to using this. Because if you ever watch a superhero movie, it always starts off with some sort of problem.
Yeah.
So there's usually some sort of villain that is doing something, and then something happens where there's a hero, and all of a sudden you're on the side of the hero and you want the hero to win, and whatever happens, that you're drawn into the story.
Yeah.
What's going to happen. And that's the same thing with, I guess, your copy, whether it being, we're saying copy, we're saying messaging, it's the same thing, right? We're just saying, I think sometimes when you say copy, I think some people think of it being as sales copy on a letter or a website. But actually, and that's why we say messaging, because it can be in person, it can be, through social media, it could be over the phone, whatever.
Or video. This is the thing about people talk about video. Video is brilliant, but it all starts with words. It all starts with copy. Well, not necessarily copy, but having a script of what you're going to talk about. But this is, I never, even though I'm a copywriter in one of my guises, I never decry the fact that video is really powerful.
Yeah.
But video has to start. But a rubbish video isn't going to do anything. So you have to have a video that's kind of not even scripted necessarily, because that sounds a bit cardboard, but just have those points and this is the scene I want to set, and this is how it's going to go. So they're in their clear mind. So the video can be, if you're going to kind of like put on an animated video, it could be somebody leading someone along a corridor. It could actually be a video, and this is your suit.
I think one big point to bring up here, but we're talking about points. You said about points. I mean, that is the big thing here, isn't it? Within your messaging, is that we went through positioning, offering process. We built out that statement. But what we've looked at there is we have looked at the transformation. So we've looked at moving someone from where they are now to where they want to be, or from problem to solution. The whole point there is we know that what they want to overcome, we know how we do it, and we know the real benefits on how we help to do it.
Yeah.
Those benefits, those points then, well, what we can do there is they should run consistently through all our messaging. So it doesn't matter if we use,
that's consistent. Yeah.
If we use video, if we use a website, if we use it could even be a leaflet, that we send out. It could be then on the phone. Whatever it is we use these points because we have that congruency, then we have that consistency within all our messaging. So that if we do get someone on the phone, or we get someone onto the sales page, well, they're more inclined to buy at that point.
Exactly.
I think sometimes you get sales, and people think, okay, look, you need to do whatever you need to do to get someone onto the phone, and then you start a sales pitch. So you're trying to persuade them to buy and stuff like that. I think that sales puts a block on a lot of people.
Yeah,
because they kind of see sales as a bit sleazy. They kind of see it as, I'm just trying to persuade someone to buy my stuff. But really, the sales side, you need to look at it as serving. So serving rather than selling, because all you're doing there is you're serving that person to just help them decide if it is right for them. Because if you get someone onto a phone call and your marketing has been done right, well, that phone call then is to get them to sign up, or for you to understand if they're a right fit for you.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that you get them onto a phone call, onto a website, and you're trying to persuade them to buy, because it's never sustainable that way.
And this is again something I'll use messaging rather than copy, but this is something in that model, great model. The G is the grab headline, and the R is to raise the emotional desire that they think, I really need to do something about it. And then we go on to these E for elicit the affirmations, and that's where you also start to build the trust. And you're showing your expertise as well as you're going along. At that point, that's the selling point, not the call to action down the bottom of the page. They're ready. They should be ready here. And then the authority part of the great formula, which you can't put it into everything, but you can even put one or two liners into some copy, and that's the authority bit, is a case study or a testimonial. This person bought the last person who used this said it was brilliant, whatever. And that's just, so people buy an emotion. So the G, the R, and the E bit is all emotional, and then the logic kicks in. Right? Okay. Yeah, this looks really good. How do I know it's good? There's logic. I want proof. So then there's a little testimonial or a case study or something. Sometimes it can only needs to be a two-liner, and they suddenly think, wow, yeah, okay, that's got it. And so they are then, well, where do I press the button, or where do I click on now? They're not even saying, they're not at that point. if it's gone well, if it's written well, or if it's put across well, if the video's gone well, or if your meeting's gone well, they're not looking for a further point of being convinced because they're ready. Which I'll backtrack a second, which means that, and I said this before, is that you need to think about, if you're writing especially, even if you're messaging, that what are the objections they're going to have? And this is the classic thing, isn't it? And they say, well, what about the price? Or what about this? And what about that? You need to be answering those as you're going along, so they don't even have the question. So you just tell them, yeah, well, the price is this, and they think, oh, right, okay, that's a tick. I'm fine. Again, you've got a head nod, and this is how we work. It takes us 2-week delivery or whatever to do this, right? And nod, oh, okay. I was going to ask that, but that's great. You've answered it already. More of that, and they're just really they are the warmest prospect you can ever have.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing here, isn't it? It's that messaging. It moves them along.
Yeah,
in their own head, they're seeing things, and I think a big thing there as well to pick up on that, like you said, is within your great model. Well, look, majority of it is looking at the emotion.
Always. Yeah.
So it's all about the emotion to begin with, and then the logic comes in, because there is that point where, okay, look, we can get caught up in emotion. And then, everything's great. And then we have to make a decision, or we have to buy, or whatever it is. But actually, without that logic part, that's when people just go, oh, yeah, do you know what? It's too far out there, or, that I can never have that, But always in that logic part is that sort of next step that goes, I just need to check on this, and it makes sense.
And one of the places, I mean, this. So originally there was the copywriting models came about from the original copywriting model of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action. That came from window dressing back in the 1890s. And if you look at the way people sell kitchens now, it's exactly the same. The kitchen is sold on emotion. Now, normally there's a man and a wife, or a man and your partner. There's normally one emotional one and one logic. And nowadays that's not all about the sexes being one or the other. They're interchangeable. And it can be or it can be or you can imagine if somebody wants to stock a man cave, and they're a carpenter. They see this great big, my dad would have been this, say would have had a wood turning machine. That would be the emotional buy. And it would be his wife who said, oh, you can't afford that, or whatever. She'd come back with the logic. But the point is, you look at a kitchen, it's all about emotion to start with. They love it. Oh, I don't like these doors, or I don't like that, or oh, I love this. And it's just, oh, look at that cooker. And then the logic is, so how much is it? And those kind of questions coming in. And if it could, you say, well, the value here, and this is the price, and that's the delivery, is this, and the logical mind, yeah, okay, I can understand that. And because often what happens is that logic sometimes is not perfect logic. So the person who really does want the kitchen will justify it with logic that is maybe a little bit twisted so they can
logic
buy
to
it.
them, yeah.
So sometimes that logic is not actually very logical, because I mean, I don't know if you ever watched have you watched the series? I thought it might have seen this before, where people go and buy chateaus in France and do them up.
Yeah, you're saying, yeah.
There's one guy who bought a chateau, and because he loved it, him and his wife, they absolutely loved it, and they just wanted it. And then he went through this book, and he said, his book gives me 300 reasons why I should never have bought this place. And you think, but his was pure. He said, I don't care, I'm going to do it up, and it took him a long time. But
you get that a lot, though, don't you? With you get like the kind of sports cars. I think Ferrari is a big one. I mean, look, I still want a Ferrari. I'll buy one. I don't have an issue with buying one. You would say people who have bought a Ferrari and then they've sold it because they've just gone like, the emotion was that I wanted it, right?
Yeah.
But there was no real logic. And then once I kind of drove it, it's impractical for going around town and stuff like that. So there was no point in me even buying it. And you do get that, like you said, sometimes that logic is skewed in a way where it works for you. But I think a good point there to pick up on as well is like with price. We've done a few podcasts now where we've talked about price, and we say, look, in one respect, price is irrelevant. because it doesn't matter. But actually, look, there still needs to be that logic part within the price, because even someone who has a lot of disposable income, maybe they have a lot of income and they could easily afford something, well, they're not just going to pay the money out if it's if it looks overpriced, or there's no real substance in that price being that price.
And that's where you've got to stack the value, isn't it? Well, ultimately, going back to the illicit part of that model of your message or whatever, it's that you explain what a standard kitchen may look. So if we go back to kitchens. So this is what a standard kitchen looks like. Yeah, of course you get the cooker hood, you get this, you get that, But we've got thicker doors, we've got better work surfaces, we've got all these little cupboards, and you've got these hidden cupboards where you can put this in, and we've got this that goes with the cooker hood, and you can. We talked about this the other day. You can run it from your phone app, this kind of stuff. And we do this, and they get blown away. What's the price? Well, it is a bit more expensive than some normal kitchens, but look at all these things you get. Well, yeah, that's fine. That'll do. If you're justifying it with that value, this is what I'm saying about the twisted logic. Logical means, do I really need to be able to operate my cooker hood from my phone app? Do I really need those little cupboards down there? In cold light of day, no, they probably don't. But it's just you're selling it. You're a good salesman is showing it as a benefit, and that's the point, isn't it? If you rack up the benefits, and in some cases, some of the benefits won't be dubious, but sometimes the benefits are you could do without it. But wouldn't it be good if? And this again, it comes down to emotion. Wouldn't it be great if you had this kitchen as opposed to that kitchen? Wouldn't it be great if you had this database where you could access it instantly and you could index all the things you wanted instead of this database over here, which could do a similar job, but it doesn't look as nice, or it's not as pretty or whatever, So the spreadsheet case, that will still, that database will work, but this one is just instant. You've got this access, you've got that. And by the way, you can look up this way, you can look up that way, and you think, probably, well, why would I ever do that? But anyway, it's there. You've got the option.
Do you know what that meant? Like, picking up on what you said, we spoke about this briefly on another podcast. I say briefly, I think we probably went into it. A bit more like we always do.
Yeah.
Right? But right there, where we get into that kind of illicit, then is that we've been through the emotion thing, and what you will get a lot of people then say is that you have to sell the benefits, not the features.
Yeah.
Actually, what we're doing here is we're selling the benefits with the features. I think that's a big thing where people get mistaken, because they always look at, oh yeah, you can have this or you can achieve that, but they don't always tell you how. And that's where the features come into it, because like you said, is that okay, like you're looking at a kitchen or something like that, and you may say, oh, do you know what, this wood is thicker, so it lasts longer.
Yeah.
So you won't need to spend money again in X amount of years' time, or it won't, start to chip away or break or anything like that because of this. You may get then, okay, look, it does have the latest technology. When you're looking at, okay, look, you're going to keep up with the Joneses here, and they're going to see you have this amazing kitchen. And that's because it has the latest technology built into it. You know, and then maybe it's to get into the kind of the design as well and stuff like that. But that there is, I feel like some people will. We spoke about this. I think every podcast I mention this about, for me, a lot of the kind of marketing exercises and messages and stuff like that get diluted in what you should do, and that's because I think sometimes people pull the headlines from things and say, oh yeah, this is all you need to do, without looking at the extra part. And like from all of what we've done, and we'll wrap up this podcast in just a minute, but if you look at what we spoke about now in 3 episodes, right, so like around about 3 hours, we've looked at, okay, look, what the offering is and what the messaging is. We haven't even looked at kind of getting out there to really sell it or anything like that, or looking at getting traffic or anything like that, because all those things can change. It doesn't matter. Once we have our offerings, whether that's your product or service, we've been through your positioning, we've been through the offering, we've been through the process. We then get into the messaging where we look at the benefits. Okay, so you said with your great model, is that we've grabbed their attention. We know exactly what it is that it is going to trigger them into wanting to know more and stuff like that. And then we get to build up all that emotion, and then we get to add the logic. so that when we get to that point that we say, look, do you want to buy now or do you want to take the next step? It's a natural step. It's a natural process.
Yeah. So in the great model, the T stands for transform rather than call to action, which I guess is just me playing with words a little bit, but it is a transformation. And the reason that I put the T for transform is from the writing point of view, you take them from being a passive reader to actively doing something. So they go from a passive reader to an active prospect by their clicking. So you're transforming them from saying, from being just reading, now I'm going to do something. And this is the same with, if you imagine just in a network meeting, you transform someone from just listening to you to say, I think we need to book up a call. They suddenly, you've changed, you've transformed their thought process. You now think, great, yeah, well, next Tuesday, let's do it. Let's have an hour's call. And then the call's going to be structured differently, because you're going to be discovering about what how their business is and how you can really work with them. So the T is always about transforming to the next stage in your sales process. This is why, and with everything, you've got to have that sales process. You've got to know, going back to, like you mentioned that comment, everything has to have a purpose. You know the purpose of each piece of your copy you're putting out. And this purpose is to get them from moving from here to here. When you have a discovery call or the message around there, that purpose is then ultimately to say, so yeah, how can I add value to you? How can I work with you?
Transform is great, isn't it? I mean, that is it. I mean, when we went through everything with your pop, is we looked at, okay, look, someone is at point A and they want to get to point B.
Yeah.
And it's that transformation. That's what everyone is buying. Yeah. Whether it's a case of, they're going from problem to solution or they want some value add, it's always a transformation. Always. And that's a perfect way of putting it there. And so to kind of sum it up there, I mean, what we've done at that point, so we've built out the right kind of offering. We've got our message in there, and if we use that right, where we get in front of people, who are our ideal customers, we've now moved them from that recognition part, through to the attraction part.
Absolutely, yeah.
We mentioned that we have 5 areas that we call the Pentagon of Momentum. It's through measuring and everything like that. Well, that's the first part. We've moved them now, from them knowing about what we do to them wanting to have more information or conversation with us about it.
Even as far as the acquisition.
Getting as far as the
acquisition stage, which again is another measurement, is that, talking about that Pentagon, is the measurement there is, okay, how many people now, instead of saying how many people am I converting from my sales calls or copying, you're now saying how many people am I converting from that warm discovery call into them taking action. And that makes it far easier, because once they're on a warm discovery call, your conversion rate is going to be better.
Yeah.
And this is the next, and so you go back a step, you say, okay, you've moved someone now from being just reading something or talking to someone to actually creating a phone call with you. That's measurable as well. What's the conversion rate there? But all those different conversion rates of the those are not, they're easier to measure, but they're comfortable as well. They're not saying you've got to sell this many, you've got to sell this many widgets in the next hour. It's just much more comfortable and easy way to sell, and makes the person you're selling to, the person you're going to add value to them, they feel so much more comfortable. They're not being, again, an adage that I love is that people hate being sold to, but they love to buy.
Yeah.
You're letting them make the choice to buy, and you're not telling them that we're selling you something. And that's
exactly, isn't it? I think that's a great point to end on now, is that your messaging is doing exactly that.
Yeah.
You're serving them, aren't you? You're
absolutely service.
You're helping them to buy what they want to buy. And that there with that Pentagon is that, we've moved people through in a smooth way.
Yeah.
Right. And that there means that, okay, look, those people who now are in that attraction point, that lead generation point, they are warm. They're probably hot. That's the thing, is that they're there, that, you have a real high percentage of converting them.
Yeah.
Over the general kind of lead generation that maybe okay, I've picked up a business card. This person said it was nice to meet me, so they're probably a really hot lead now. I should follow up with them. You know, they're never going to buy from you. Whereas this way, you know that, okay, look, people who have moved through that motion, they're really interested. The intent is there. I'm not pushing them to get on a phone call with me. They're asking me to get on a phone call with them so I can run through everything.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, I've never, and I guess this is what people call non-sleazy sales calls, because at no point are you pushing them at all. If they make the decision to say, "I'm not quite ready yet," you say, "Oh, fine, okay. When would be a good time to follow up or have a chat, or how do you want to leave it?" But you just give the decision back to them. Yeah, of course, you're trying to guide the decision to a certain extent, but you're allowing them to feel comfortable with saying, "I'm not ready yet." Yeah. And going back to the buyer's mountain, they may not be at the snow cap. They may still be climbing up, and I'm not quite ready yet, but I'd love to know more when I am. So that gives you an open door to say, "Okay, well, give us your email address, and we can keep the ball rolling." Yeah. And so as they climb up the mountain, and then they then get into the snow cap part, then they're ready to buy, and they'll buy from you.
That's the way as well. I mean, that the wording that you use there as well, sales call. I think once you get into a sales call, it's a different game, right? It's a persuasion call. It's not a serving call, which it should be, because that sales call really is a serving call. Yeah. Because all you're doing is just serving that person to help them make that decision if it's right for them or not. Yeah. And all you're doing is you're giving them the right answers. You know, you're giving them the truthful answers to whatever it is that you're selling, and they can make up their mind. And then we'll wrap things up on this podcast. So I think we kind of covered why we talk about offering and messaging. We deep dived into offering, deep dived into messaging here. I think what we'll do in the next episode is we'll look at a conclusion. We'll look at how we bring it all together with putting stuff with that consistent flow, through it. And you mentioned buyer's mountain. I think we're touching on that as well. And we'll look at how this can really work for people who are ready to buy right now, but also people who will be buying. Yeah. And then I think we'll look at maybe some discussions that we've had with the podcast on the direction that we're going to take it.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. So I think we'll wrap things up here. I think we've probably been an hour again. You know, we just start to chat. You know, it's starting to get dark in my room. Everything, mate. You know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the lights went on ages ago, but
this is it. See, we're into winter now, right? Yeah. You know, it's that time. We'll soon be doing it in the dark. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But look, Mark, it's always been a pleasure.
And certainly has. Yeah.
I'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
We'll see you all then.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, everyone.